Chapter 1 of Hind Swaraj, or Indian Home Rule. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Michelle Fry, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Hind Swaraj, or Indian Home Rule, by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Chapter 1. The Congress and its Officials. Reader, just at present there is a Home Rule wave passing over India. All our countrymen appear to be pining for national independence. A similar spirit pervades them even in South Africa. Indians seem to be eager after acquiring rights. Will you explain your views in this matter? Editor, you have well put the question, but the answer is not easy. One of the objects of a newspaper is to understand the popular feeling and to give expression to it. Another is to arouse among the people certain desirable sentiments. And the third is fearlessly to expose popular defects. The exercise of all these three functions is involved in answering your question. To a certain extent, the people's will has to be expressed. Certain sentiments will need to be fostered, and defects will have to be brought to light. But as you have asked the question, it is my duty to answer it. Reader, do you then consider that a desire for home rule has been created among us? Editor, that desire gave rise to the National Congress. The choice of the word national implies it. Reader, that surely is not the case. Young India seems to ignore the Congress. It is considered to be an instrument for perpetuating British rule. Editor, that opinion is not justified. Had not the grand old man of India prepared the soil, our young men could not have even spoken about home rule. How can we forget what Mr. Hume has written, how he has lashed us into action, and with what effort he has awakened us in order to achieve the objects of the Congress? Sir William Wedderburn has given his body, mind, and money to the same cause. His writings are worthy of perusal to this day. Professor Gokhale, in order to prepare the nation, embraced poverty and gave 20 years of his life. Even now he is living in poverty. The late Justice Budruddin Tayebji was also one of those who, through the Congress, sowed the seed of home rule. Similarly, in Bengal, Madras, the Punjab, and other places, there have been lovers of India and members of the Congress, both Indian and English. Reader, stay, you are going too far. You are straying away from my question. I have asked you about home or self-rule. You are discussing foreign rule. I do not desire to hear English names, and you are giving me such names. In these circumstances, I do not think we can ever meet. I shall be pleased if you will confine yourself to home rule. All other wise talk will not satisfy me. Editor, you are impatient. I cannot afford to be likewise. If you will bear with me for a while, I think you will find that you will obtain what you want. Remember the old proverb that the tree does not grow in one day. The fact that you have checked me, and that you do not want to hear about the well-wishers of India, shows that for you at any rate, home rule is yet far away. If we had many like you, we would never make any advance. This thought is worthy of your attention. Reader, it seems to me that you simply want to put me off by talking round and round. Those whom you consider to be well-wishers of India are not such in my estimation. Why, then, should I listen to your discourse on such people? What has he whom you consider to be the father of the nation done for it? He says that the English governors will do justice, and that we should cooperate with them. Editor, I must tell you with all gentleness that it must be a matter of shame for us that you should speak about that great man in terms of disrespect. Just look at his work. He has dedicated his life to the service of India. We have learned what we know from him. It was the respected Dadabhai who taught us that the English had sucked our lifeblood. What does it matter that today his trust is still in the English nation? Is Dada Pai less to be honored because in the exuberance of youth we are prepared to go a step further? Are we, on that account, wiser than he? Is it a mark of wisdom not to kick against the very step from which we have risen higher? The removal of a step from a staircase brings down the whole of it. When, out of infancy, we grow into youth, we do not despise infancy, but, on the contrary, we recall with affection the days of our childhood. If, after many years of study, a teacher were to teach me something, and if I were to build a little more on the foundation laid by that teacher, I would not, on that account, be considered wiser than the teacher. He would always command my respect. Such is the case with the grand old man of India. We must admit that he is the author of nationalism. Reader, you have spoken well. I can now understand that we must look upon Mr. Dada Pai with respect. Without him and men like him, we would probably not have the spirit that fires us. How can the same be said of Professor Gokhale? He has constituted himself a great friend of the English. He says that we have to learn a great deal from them, that we have to learn their political wisdom before we can talk of home rule. I am tired of reading his speeches. Editor: If you are tired, it only betrays your impatience. We believe that those who are discontented with the slowness of their parents and are angry because the parents would not run with their children are considered disrespectful to their parents. Professor Gokhale occupies the place of a parent. What does it matter if he cannot run with us? A nation that is desirous of securing home rule cannot afford to despise its ancestors. We shall become useless if we lack respect for our elders. Only men with mature thoughts are capable of ruling themselves, and not the hasty-tempered. Moreover, how many Indians were there like Professor Gokhale when he gave himself to Indian education? I verily believe that whatever Professor Gokhale does, he does with pure motives and with a view to serving India. His devotion to the motherland is so great that he would give his life for it if necessary. Whatever he says is said not to flatter anyone, but because he believes it to be true. We are bound, therefore, to entertain the highest regard for him. Reader, are we, then, to follow him in every respect? Editor: I never said any such thing. If we conscientiously differed from him, the learned professor himself would advise us to follow the dictates of our conscience rather than him. Our chief purpose is not to cry down his work, but to believe that he is infinitely greater than we, and to feel assured that compared with his work for India, ours is infinitesimal. Several newspapers write disrespectfully of him. It is our duty to protest against such writings. We should consider men like Professor Gokhale to be the pillars of home rule. It is a bad habit to say that another man's thoughts are bad and ours only are good, and that those holding different views from ours are the enemies of the country. Reader, I now begin to understand somewhat your meaning. I shall have to think the matter over, but what you say about Mr. Hume and Sir William Wedderburn is beyond comprehension. Editor: The same rule holds good for the English as for the Indians. I can never subscribe to the statement that all Englishmen are bad. Many Englishmen desire home rule for India. That the English people are somewhat more selfish than others is true, but that does not prove that every Englishman is bad. We who seek justice will have to do justice to others. Sir William does not wish ill to India. That should be enough for us. As we proceed, you will see that if we act justly, India will be sooner free. You will see, too, that if we shun every Englishman as an enemy, home rule will be delayed. But if we are just to them, we shall receive their support in our progress towards the goal. Reader, all this seems to me at present to be simply nonsensical. English support and the obtaining of home rule are two contradictory things. How can the English people tolerate home rule for us? But I do not want you to decide this question for me just yet. To pass time over it is useless. When you have shown me how we can have home rule, perhaps I shall understand your views. You have prejudiced me against you by discoursing on English help. I would therefore beseech you not to continue this subject. Editor: I have no desire to do so. That you are prejudiced against me is not a matter for much anxiety. It is well that I should say unpleasant things at the commencement. It is my duty patiently to try to remove your prejudice. Reader, I like that last statement. It emboldens me to say what I like. One thing still puzzles me. I do not understand how the Congress laid the foundation of Home Rule. Editor: Let us see. The Congress brought together Indians from different parts of India and enthused us with the idea of nationality. The government used to look upon it with disfavor. The Congress has always insisted that the nation should control revenue and expenditure. It has always desired self-government after the Canadian model. Whether we can get it or not, whether we desire it or not, and whether there is not something more desirable, are different questions. All I have to show is that the Congress gave us a foretaste of Home Rule. To deprive it of the honor is not proper, and for us to do so would not only be ungrateful, but retard the fulfillment of our object. To treat the Congress as an institution inimical to our growth as a nation could disable us from using that body. End of Chapter 1.